Well, a very, very, very happy Friday and welcome to the throw-in here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. My name is Justin, and for the next 2 hours, hey, let's get ready for the weekend because we have a really, really busy program for you guys today. I think it's going to be a fulfilled sports weekend as we have just so much to talk about. I mean, it's a nice weekend to talk about sports, to get ready for Saturday and Sunday. I got plenty of things planned ahead for me. I got my daughters, got some sports going on over this weekend. Going to kick things off tomorrow early in the morning as my oldest has a 9 o'clock softball game. And then we're just going to head straight over to my youngest. She has a soccer game. So we got plenty of stuff to talk about here and to bring up. And boy, yes, if anything implicated on how this weekend's going to go, it was thanks to yesterday. And for the first time in my life, I actually watched night one of the NFL draft. And I thought to myself, man, this was exciting. Now, it's interesting because up until this moment, I just haven't really paid too close attention to some of these drafts, and to the NFL draft. It's like, for me, there's over 250 players that are eligible to get picked over the next 7 rounds. If you do the calculation, that's 32 times by 7 at least. It's 220 plus picks over a 3-day weekend. And I was leading into last night, I was getting pretty excited because I wanted to know. I think there was a lot of questions, a lot of anticipation, and I wanted to know just how the Cincinnati Bengals would have drafted last night. And we'll talk about, who they draft and what we really honestly thought about the draft here. But I enjoyed the draft more so than than not. And maybe it's because as paying attention to the Bengals, and they came in at the number 28 spot in the first round draft, I figured maybe possibility that, the Bengals could have led up to the draft, maybe traded up. But I was also expecting, and I was paying attention to a couple of other teams and the way, the guys that we had listed yesterday as possible favorites to be onto the draft and to be drafted possibly by the Bengals. And we saw a complete 180 turn. And now yesterday kind of went pretty differently, to be honest, right? So it kind of shocked me that by surprise. Carolina went with Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama. And it was surprising to me to see that in first time in modern day era in the NFL draft, that Alabama would have had a number 1 pick overall, that this was the first one last time. And I thought, excuse me, I thought that took me by surprise. So I was pretty, kind of outlandish. I was astonished about to see that. I was like, all right, Bryce Young is a favorite. And then we get down to Houston and the Texans. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. They're either going to pick up a quarterback or they're going to pick up a defender, right? Two ways that the Texans could have gone. And as much as leading up to the draft, we wanted to say, Houston, you needed a quarterback, right? We have a problem. They ended up picking up the quarterback. We kept on thinking to ourselves that they were going to go down a different path. Well, then it comes into the number 3 slot here, where I really started getting excited about, because Arizona Cardinals gets up on the clock. And we know that Arizona doesn't need a quarterback. And so what ends up happening? At the very last second, Houston trades with Arizona, and we saw the Houston Texans pick up a linebacker at Will Anderson Jr. So not only the Houston Texans picked up a solid quarterback, but they picked up a solid defensive back. And what was surprising to me about this is because the Houston Texans are one of the teams that went into this draft this season so far, and they're coming into it not established, not knowing what to expect, not knowing exactly what type of team they're building themselves around on. The Texans were one of the teams, and the reason why we felt that they weren't going to go quarterbacks out, because they didn't quite know what type of football they would be playing this year. Well, guess what? They changed all of that thanks to a quarterback pick and a defensive pick, linebacker pick, and probably some of the top 2 best players, the second best players in the NFL drafted today. And so I think, coming into it, you want to, start pinpointing winners and losers. I'm saying Houston, Texas, because then they have now established themselves as, all right, this is who our quarterback is going to be. This is who is going to lead our defense to the promised land. And now we have a couple of solid, young, talented, top prospect athletes that we can base our team around and kind of configure our team around these 2 players. I think it was a bit surprising as the Indianapolis Colts took Anthony Richardson at number 4. And there's 2 things I think last night that kind of frustrated me. One was a part of the draft. All right. One was the fact that a quarterback like Will Levis, which I believe this is just a huge disappointing, understatement, that any team who didn't pick up Will Levis, any team who picks up Will Levis is a lucky team. And I feel like he was undervalued in this year's draft pick. Will Levis did not get picked up in the draft, leaving him probably the one out of there was 5 quarterbacks that we expected. Okay, we at least expected 4 quarterbacks to go in round 1. And there was plenty of opportunity. We knew Carolina, Houston, and Indianapolis all needed quarterbacks. The next person in line could have been the Raiders, could have been the Falcons, or even, let me look through this list, maybe the Titans. Or I would even say we're moving down, Commanders at number 16. Tampa Bay at number 19 could have used the quarterback, but I guess they're contented. I mean, I was very disappointed not to see Will Levis be one whose name was called. I felt shocked. I mean, he was there, he waited patiently, and it's one of those games where it's hard not to feel emotional for certain players that build themselves up to, and then they do everything right, and they show up to the green room on NFL draft night last night, and then their names don't get called. I think there's a plenty of guys out there right now that's going to lead into the second round tonight. And we'll talk about, here in a moment, Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State, Brian Branch, who I really believe that the Bengals could have picked up, and we'll talk about that here. Will Levis is one of them. Michael Mayer from Notre Dame was very shocking that he didn't get picked up. I mean, if you think, I was looking through this list here, and I'm just going to glance back over it again. Tight end. There was Dalton Kincaid drafted in the 25th pick of the first round for the Buffalo Bills, tight end out of Utah. And that was the only tight end position. Then we got Drew Sanders and Cam Smith. So there's a good group of guys out there heading into the second round that maybe they are second rounders, but to be honest, all of these guys that I just mentioned has a valid case on why they couldn't go in the first round. Seattle gets cornerback Devin Witherspoon. Paris Johnson Jr., the first offensive tackle for the Detroit Lions, after trading, or with the Arizona Cardinals, after the Lions traded with the Cardinals to drop down, I believe, to number 12. Chicago Bears get Jalen Carter from Georgia. They traded up, or the Eagles traded up with Chicago to get Jalen Carter. And then they come back in the 30th pick to get Nolan Smith, who was still sitting on the chopping block. And it was interesting because my pick-wise yesterday, I had Jalen Carter going to Seattle at number 5. He drops down to number 9. I thought Houston will pick up Will Levis. They go C.J. Stroud. So C.J. Stroud still in the top 10 for me. Tyree Wilson, the defensive end from Texas Tech, goes to Vegas. I had him going to Houston. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I believe, didn't he not? Let me see where he went. He went in the he went at number 20 with Seattle from Ohio State. So there's a lot of ups and downs and roller coasters and twists and turns. And the biggest one that got me off of the edge of my seat had to be Texas at number 2 and 3. Then there was some deals, and I was like, it's interesting. All right, so we're in Kansas City. You got the mother of Travis Kelce and his brother with Philadelphia, right? I can't remember his name at the top of my list. But then I liked how the end of the night was concluded between them two. And I like also, having the draft pick, having the NFL draft this year in Kansas City, the home of the Super Bowl champions. And the last pick of the night was, a Kansas State edge, Felix Onudika Uzoma. And then the entire crowd exploded. And I thought that was just a great way to end the night. But there were some deals looking through the midway, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, that wasn't the Pittsburgh. I'm trying to think here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers picked up defensive tackle Kalijah Kinsey from Pittsburgh. And there was a moment there where maybe the crowd was kind of like, well, who is he? Should we get excited about? The not New York Giants, Jacksonville Jaguars, Anton Harrison, Dalton Kincaid, okay, great. Deontay Banks from Maryland. There was a few draft picks that just was, I think people sat it's like, all right, who is he? Did we need him? Was he on our list? There was a couple guys that was not on our list. And we picked up Clemson's defensive edge, Miles Murphy, which we'll talk about here because coming up here in the first available draft, moving for second, and third today, and then fourth, I believe fourth, fifth tomorrow, and then sixth and seventh on Sunday. I believe that's something like that, how it works. But this was a very interesting draft. The only downfall that I hated, that I did not like whatsoever, was about the draft is that apparently there's 10 minutes per station, right? And I guess there's 10 minutes. Once you hear the bell, it's 10 minutes on the clock, and they took forever because they were making the jerseys, and I was okay with that up until the point of it started at 8 and it didn't end until closer to midnight, and I was like, wow. And it's fun because if you're Cincinnati, if I'm a fan that's watching this from, and my team is the number one, number two, then I'm kind of, in the top 10, in the first 10, I'm watching and I'm like, okay, once he's picked, I'm going to probably tune into a basketball game. What kept me watching it was because the Bengals were sitting at number 28, and I think it was interesting to see exactly who the Bengals were going to pick up, in the first round. And then on top of that, I got a chance to monitor and see exactly how the Steelers went, and especially how the Ravens went, considering the mega contract signed by Lamar Jackson earlier yesterday, just hours before the draft started. So I think that was a really big night. It was a great night overall, and it's the beginning of this weekend, and we have a lot to talk about this weekend for sure. So sit tight, don't go nowhere. Listen, we got NBA, Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll get you with the Kelly Cup playoffs as well, updates. Trip around Cincinnati and the local sports that will be scheduled to play this weekend. I know FC Cincinnati and New England has a really big matchup coming up tomorrow night at Gillette Stadium, so that's something to look forward to. The Cincinnati Cyclones are continuing tonight in the Kelly Cup playoffs as they lead the Fort Wayne Comets 2-1 in their first semifinal series in the Central. So we'll get you guys ready for that. The Bearcats, the Musketeers, the Cincinnati Reds on the road. Game one of a 3-game series against the Athletics. First trip out there on the West Coast, taking on the Athletics, moving down south Monday on through Wednesday with the Padres. So we'll get you guys ready for the weekend series. And then last but not least, the WWE draft, the moment we're here, I think the moment that it kind of rejuvenates with the fans and the universe of why we are excited post WrestleMania. We are a week away from Backlash, but we have the brand split tonight. We have the draft tonight, and there is a lot of questions, just like in the NFL. So we got a lot to cover into this 2-hour period. We're just getting started. If you guys are tuning us in on our YouTube channel, we want to thank you, welcome you guys. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Be sure to have those notifications on and don't miss a single episode. Over there on Facebook and Twitter, hit that like button. Thank you. And share it with a friend. Get involved in the comments below. I want to know who should go number one in the WWE draft tonight. Who is going number one? Let me know down in the comments as well. If you guys are also tuning us in on our audio platforms, we thank you and welcome you to the program. Without you guys, none of this is possible. All right, let's take a first timeout of the program. Let's come on back and talk more about the NFL draft. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 3:23 here on the program. Welcome on back and a happy Friday to all of you, wherever you guys are at. I hope your day is nice and well and moving by fast. Can't wait to get the weekend started. Round 2 of the NFL draft will continue tonight. I believe it's around 2-3. Or it's 2-3-4. I want to say it's 2-3. Um, but before we get into the draft, I want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create your podcast, videos, host virtual business meetings, and conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. This weekend's going to be filled with the draft. I don't know how much more that I'm going to be tuning into the draft and paying attention. And, I may key in, like tomorrow what happened tonight. But, tonight's all about focusing on the WWE draft, which there's a lot to talk about. And we'll talk about that heavily in hour number 2. Because it's a new change, and I think it's important under this new Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, era that this draft is successful, and so I'm excited to exactly see how the WWE unfolds this draft, leading it into next Monday. And a couple interesting things that I saw today that kind of, I guess, rubbed me a bit of the wrong way. And so we'll talk about that here in a bit. But the NFL draft last night, round 1, 31 picks. Miami Dolphins had to cough up their pick after some controversy. So they didn't get a pick last night. But there was a couple of teams that didn't get a pick last night. The Los Angeles Rams, the Cleveland Browns, for example. So, the interesting notion, okay, to the NFL draft. I've said this before, but I want to make sure that people understand that the NFL draft is kind of an exposure at the hands of the ownership, because based off of what they select is where they believe they need the most attention at. So Carolina last night thought that they needed Bryce Young. They needed a quarterback. Houston not only believed that they needed a quarterback in CJ Stroud, and I think that was a good decision, and a lot of people were, on different sides of the playing field when it came down to that decision. But the Texans, and it was the Texans that needed a quarterback, excuse me. But then it was the Texans that felt like they needed to switch with the Arizona Cardinals to pick up a defensive player too. So they felt it was important to pay more and to switch, and I don't know what they gave up. I don't know if it was a even swap or whatnot, but to pick up Will Anderson Jr. Colts believed that they needed to get Anthony Richardson, right? Devon Witherspoon was Seattle's pick, and with Geno Smith, they don't need a quarterback. The Lions traded with the Cardinals because there's really maybe no one interested. They dropped down to number 12, right? No, Houston also picked. They dropped down to number 12, where they picked up the running back, Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. So there's clear indications of where, based off of what you do and how you trade and who you select, is going to reflect on what you think you're desperate about. And some teams may go out there and say, okay, well, it looks like you're panicking because you need X, Y, and Z, and you're hoping that these guys go out there and deliver. That's great. Listen, round number 1, congratulations. I want to first, got the wrong one. I want to first congratulate all 31 team or players who got drafted last night in the draft, because it's a historical thing. Yes, for a very long time, there's people out there that has been drafted, and, out of there's about 200 players a year, times that, at least over the last, 23 years that I can be aware of, 20 times 200 players at least. That's over 4,000 players in the last 23 years that have been drafted in the NFL. And I think that's just a remarkable statement. You know, the NFL normally, and now these days, a lot of these people who get drafted are expected to practically start by the first month of the season. But see, it's time to put up or shut up. You know, let's take a look at, Bryce Young. He's joining a quarterback class right now in a division along with Derek Carr. Who else do you got? You got the Panthers, the Buccaneers. Isn't Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay? So Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, and the Atlanta Falcons, whoever they select. I don't know who their quarterback is off the top of my head. But, this is also interesting because, he's also playing in much of a, I would so-called lighter conference in the NFC. Yeah, you got Jalen Hurts. Yes, I would consider Jordan Love there. Trey Lance on a healthy day. Yes, Geno Smith was quite impressive, and you can't deny or cannot leave out Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins. Okay, but they don't. Maybe one or two of them rings a bell. But there's also a bit of a fear in now the AFC South. I mean, you take a look at it. You got Trevor Lawrence, who has been developed over the last few years, made it to the postseason last year. And then you have Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud from the Texans and the Colts to join the ball club, join the conference and the division, as along with Ryan Tannehill, with the Titans look like they're going to stick with for another year. By the way, the Titans are going to have that stadium to progress. So, I mean, overall, this, and if you think about this, earlier this week, we just saw Aaron Rodgers get shipped off to the Jets in New York. Yesterday, just hours before the draft start, we saw Lamar Jackson sign, what was a 5-year contract, $250 million plus contract, which is a big deal. And now, I think the Bengals have an idea based off of, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, and now Lamar Jackson to sit back and actually negotiate a top-tier lineup, right? Well, the AFC is already known to be stacked. And I feel like C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson right now, right, the two quarterbacks that are playing for the AFC, there's already pressure, okay? Now, I'm going to call myself an old school quarterback or old school player when it comes down to these quarterbacks. And it's the reason why I'm a huge fan of Jordan Love at this moment. And the reason why I hope that there is a success in the next year or two because of Jordan Love and in Green Bay, because I've always believed into that player, that quarterback who gets drafted has to stay, who starts his career off for at least a year or two as a backup quarterback to a already starting quarterback to kind of learn the ropes, to adjust to NFL play, to adjust the team's play, and to adjust to, just football in general before they get the full reins. Green Bay has moved on. They are going to go with Jordan Love, and he spent the last 2-3 years shadowing Aaron Rodgers, and that's why I utterly feel confident in Green Bay. And I hope, just like when Aaron Rodgers took over from Brett Favre, I hope Jordan Love could come in, dominate the division, because they can. I know they can. And to hopefully make a run in an NFC conference that maybe your only other team that right now you're scared of is maybe the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe if on a healthy Los Angeles Rams team, possibly. I mean, unless Derek Carr goes out of the water and does something spectacular, or Baker Mayfield takes a step up, then quite honestly, I don't feel like there's much competition. I mean, even Bryce Young has a chance in the NFC South. But it's the AFC South this year that I think the tables have turned over the last 5 years. where it's stacked. You got Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, you got Russell Wilson, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Sam Donald, not Sam Donald, but you got you got Trevor Lawrence, you got Joe Burrow, you got Kenny Pickett growing into his zone, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield. Let's not forget about the East and Aaron Rodgers and Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, it's I think it's quite funny just to see how big the AFC is going to be this year and how competitive it's going to be this year, which makes it interesting for these draft picks as CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. But I will tell you something. I definitely like these picks. It definitely took me by surprise. I mean, I had top 10. I barely had one correct. I mean, I just thought that was flabbergasting. I mean, it's one of those scenarios. So congratulations to everyone who got drafted last night. I want to congratulate everyone that is going to get drafted over tonight, tomorrow, and then over the weekend with the NFL. And this is the point where, if you're Will Levis, if you're Joey Porter, if you're Brian Branch, well, guess what? Don't take it as an understatement. You get to go sit there and, whatever team you go on, you go sit there and you prove all the other 31 teams that they should have, wrong, and that they should have picked you up number one. I mean, I know that there's stuff behind and there's baggage behind Will Levis. Well, let me guess what. I personally believe that Will Levis is better than Anthony Richardson. I think he should have got picked up higher. That's just a personal belief. Feel free to disagree with me. But Will Levis, you had a terrible night last night. I get it. I feel sorry for you. But let's, put our head on right. Tonight's a new night. You will get drafted. I mean, from my understanding, the Pittsburgh Steelers get the draft pick number 2. And so let's come out with the bang. Whoever you get picked on, go show the world what you're capable of. So I wish the best of luck for anyone else who gets drafted. And, there's even the small amount of, the greatest people, the GOATs of the world, a sports world, sometimes come from the lower draft picks, the guys who get overlooked or underlooked and said, hey, we're not great. Look at Tom Brady, right? I mean, they drafted him pretty far back, and look where he was able to accomplish. One of the greatest quarterbacks in this modern day generation, and actually in all of football. Look at Mark Calloway and The Undertaker. You hear his stories, and he goes on and says, WCW said that no one's going to pay to go see this man. And he has a legacy left behind for generations and for millenniums to come. So, all right, when we come back, let's talk about what our division picked. Let's give you our thoughts on Myles Murphy, which came to me as a shocking surprise. And let's also talk about where the picks lie, and then also take you to the bottom of the hour, get you guys ready for the Reds and A series that's about to begin. So that's all still to come. We're just getting underway. We're having a great Friday. You guys have a great Friday with me. Join me in the celebration and the fun. You guys are listening to The Throne here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, college baseball continues tonight in the weekend as the Cincinnati Bearcats get ready to take on USC. Coming into tonight's game against South Florida. First pitch is at 6:30 p.m. The Bearcats coming at 17-24, 5-7 on the conference with a one-game winning streak. After having 4 days off, they get ready to take on USC on a 3-game weekend base. Garrett Hacker will be on the mound for the Bearcats tonight as Hunter Mink will get the nod for South Florida. Comes into tonight's game 17-25, 6-6 in the conference. All available on ESPN Plus. Game 2 of Bearcats and USC is Jack Kerbert for USC, Jace Hopwell for Bearcats. And on Sunday at 1 p.m., Tommy Boba will get the nod for the Bearcats. And then we got Xavier Musketeers hosting Central Hall. After Tuesday's victory, 7-3 victory over Eastern Kentucky, the Musketeers come into the games and play 26-15, 7-2 in conference with the 4-game winning streak. They'll be hosting Central Hall, who sits at 22-18 on the year, 5-4 in conference play with a 3-game winning streak. For today's game just got underway about 40 minutes ago. They got tomorrow at 1 p.m. and then Sunday at 10 a.m. You guys are looking for something to do in Cincinnati area, check out Xavier's Musketeers basketball. Alrighty, bottom half of hour number 1. Hour number 2 we'll save for WWE professional wrestling. Talking about the NFL draft, which, like I said, it took us by surprise. But let's go ahead and kind of talk about the AFC selection. The first team, so the Cleveland Browns did not get a pick in the first round. As a matter of fact, they're not going to get a pick until the third round at pick number 74, which is the first pick of the AFC North in the third round. So Cleveland Browns will get 2 picks today, but later on in the third round. I think, and this is all because of the Deshaun Watson deal. And you know what? I'm fine with that because, they put all their blue chips into a quarterback who had to serve a 10-game suspension, was out 2/3 of the season. And you know what? We can definitely use a little bit of help. Because now what we see is Lamar Jackson being picked up and signed, okay? Which I figured that this was something that was going to happen anyways. I was just maybe a bit surprised of how soon it was. But, Lamar Jackson seems to be happy. He took a gamble. Lamar Jackson took a huge gamble saying, I'm going to test the waters with Baltimore. And then I'm going to go ahead and wait as long as possible and let Baltimore give me what I want. And it worked out for him. And on top of that, okay, because at pick number 22, Baltimore Ravens added a wide receiver, Zay Flowers, out of Boston College. And I think this is a really good deal. You have Zay Flowers, and you also have Odell Beckham Jr. joining the squad. There's a couple of interesting promotable things. Now, definitely it wasn't, I don't think this kind of it didn't take me by surprise that it was a wide receiver, because in this case, you're like, all right, we got Lamar Jackson. He's a good quarterback. He's a versatile quarterback. He can move. He can run. We got Odell Beckham Jr. that wants to be in the spotlight, and great because we have a quarterback that wants to give it to him. And then we pick up a Zay Flowers who can still give you the routes. I think they're missing a solid running back, but I don't think that they're too far off. And when you look at who's still available, I mean, let me look at this here. You see running back Bijan go, and then Jameer. So your two top running backs right now in the draft all went. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't go have a running back available. I think, as a matter of fact, you kind of look for a fullback that can block for you so that Lamar Jackson can move and he can do what he does best. So, I mean, I think that this is a good deal. Now, Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they moved down to the 17th spot. And they picked up, and they actually, matter of fact, they moved up to number 14. They were originally set for number 17. They traded with the New England Patriots so that the Patriots could be number 17 and the Steelers be number 14. And they traded up to pick up offensive tackle Broderick Jones out of Georgia. Now, I think that this is a solid deal. I don't know why you would move up for an offensive tackle, but this helps out for the protection of someone like Kenny Pickett, who is expected to take the full reins. But I just don't know, why Pittsburgh would want to move up for that trade. Now they're calling this a B plus. And I'm like, okay, it is a B plus. And Baltimore's deal at number 22 was a B as well. Then it comes down to number 28, the Cincinnati Bengals. And for a moment, I got excited because we had Joey Porter available at cornerback, a safety out of Brian Broch in Alabama. We had tight end Michael Mayer, which, I think a tight end spot would have been a long shot, but it wasn't out of the question. We had Drew Sample. If it was me, I would have went with either Joey Porter or Brian Broch. But for some reason, and here's what happens down in the later drafts. All right, everyone has their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I explained to you guys yesterday. As you go through the list, you check off these guys. All right. So maybe we wanted Davon Witherspoon. But you know what? We know he's going in the upper draft, but we're going to put him on the list. Well, he's getting drafted. Cross him off. Who's next? Defensive end, Tyree Wilson. Maybe impossible. Put him on the list. He got picked up at number 7. Cross him off. Okay. Then we go down to maybe Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback. Oh, he got picked up. Cross him off the list. And I thought maybe Joey Porter and Brian Broch was higher than Eddie Miles. But Eddie Miles was a guy who took me by surprise. I don't think that Eddie Miles is a bad pick. It's just I know we took a big hit out of the defense this year. And I feel like with the players that we have as tight end, I think we're suitable. Now, moving forward, right? I have it here. It's all over the place, but I have it here. All right, Pittsburgh comes in at number 32. They'll also pick at number 49. And then in the second round, the Bengals will have number 60. Now, it would be, listen, I'm going to say this. The Bengals won. They marked this as a grade B, and I think that's a correct move. Unless you picked up Michael Mayer, which I still wouldn't think it would have been a validated enough move to pick based off of what you needed, and that was defensive players. So they played it safe. They picked up a defensive player, and they picked up an edge, which I think helps out that edge. Now, I think moving forward in the second and third round, as we see, we may want to consider our focus point to maybe a safety. Now, I don't know if a guy like Brian Broch will be available at number 60 or Joey Porter. I'm hoping maybe a Kem Smith or a Drew Sample. I highly doubt it, to be honest, but I hope that the Bengals moving forward is just going to be who's the next big player, right? Who's the next best player on that list? So Pittsburgh has 2 picks in the round 2. Cincinnati will have number 60, the last pick, the last chance at the AFC North in round 2. Round 3, the Cleveland Browns will have number 74. Number 80 will go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 86 will be the Baltimore Ravens. And number 92 will be our Bengals. And number 98 will be Cleveland Brown. So the Browns will get 2 picks tonight. The Steelers will get 3 picks tonight. The Bengals will get 2 picks. And the Ravens will get 1 pick. Now, this all is to discretion that no one trades ahead. I think You start looking into round 2, you may find somebody, hey, we didn't get the pick that we really wanted. We kind of panicked, and so let's go ahead and let's trade up and try to get the guy that we really want. But after tonight, I really think that it's just going to be not much more trading, to be honest. And then for tomorrow and I believe the rest of it, so round 4, we'll see Cleveland Brown at 111. Excuse me. We'll see Baltimore at number 124. 126 will be the Browns again, and Cincinnati Bengals will be 131. In round 5, we got the Browns in 140 and 142. Baltimore Ravens in 157. 163 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 6, in round 6, Cleveland Browns is 190, 199. Ravens in 206 is the Bengals. And then the last and final round, which is round 7, the Browns at 229, 241 is the Steelers. The Bengals at 246 and 251, the Steelers. So if I'm counting this up correctly, that's the Bengals have 7 picks to choose from. The Steelers on this hand, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks total. The Ravens have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the Browns have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks. Okay, so it's kind of evening themselves all out. But, I hope at the end of the day that the Cincinnati Bengals I would like to see something happen at the end of this weekend. And I'm sure that it's going to be quite difficult to say, all right, this is what's going to happen. But I wouldn't. I feel to me that the Bengals are content where they're at, but I don't know if they made the best the best draft pick possible in my books, to be honest. I don't know that. I wouldn't agree to that in my luxurious opinion. But you know what? Listen, I'm not the front office. I'm not Zach Taylor. And I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens over the weekend, because that's kind of how it is. So, all right, the Cincinnati Reds get ready for a 3-game series beginning in Oakland. It's going to be part of a 6-game road stands that they have taking you through next Tuesday. The 5-21 Oakland Athletics will host the 10-15 Cincinnati Reds at Oakland Coliseum beginning tonight. First pitch at 9:40 p.m. all Eastern time. These playing on the West Coast. These are Eastern games. You got right-handed pitcher Luis Cessa on the mound, 0-3 with a 10.80 ERA, with 7 strikeouts recorded under his name. And I'm looking again because they didn't have anything out right now. They still don't have a pitcher scheduled for the Oakland A's. Coming in tomorrow's game at 4:07 p.m. at Oakland Coliseum, the Reds will have right-handed pitcher Hunter Green, 0-1 with a 3.52 ERA and 30 strikeouts on his name so far this season. The A's have left-handed pitcher Kyle Mueller, 0-2, 7.23 ERA with 17 strikeouts on his resume this season. And then they'll wrap up the 3-game finale on Sunday at 4:07. The Reds will have left-handed pitcher Nick Lodolo, who's 2-1 with the 6.31 ERA and 37 strikeouts, as the A's have left-handed pitcher Ken Walderick Chuck, 0-2, 7.823 or 8.2 ERA with 18 strikeouts. Last series that the A's had was this past week on the road against the Angels, just down south in Anaheim. They lost on Monday. They won on Monday 11-10 in extra innings. They fell short on a 3-game skid, losing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all by a handful of points. Take a look at this here. The Oakland A's come in today's game 5-21. They are dead last in the AL West as the Houston Texans and the Texas Rangers lead the AL West with 14-11 record. The Angels are from behind them, 14-12. Seattle Mariners are 11-14 on this season. The NL Central standings looks like this. The Pittsburgh Pirates have an 18-8 record, first place in the Central, followed by a 19-6 Milwaukee Brewers, a 14-10 Chicago Cubs. We see the Cincinnati Reds currently in fourth place at 10-15, but with the St. Louis Cardinals at 10-16 right behind them. Yesterday, there's two other games besides the 3 games going on besides the Reds as they had their day off after a 20 consecutive game. The San Diego Padres lost to the Cubs 5-2. The Dodgers fall short to the Pirates 6-2, and the Cardinals shut out the Giants 6-0. Heading into tonight's ball club to begin the weekend, Chicago is going to be over in Miami in a 3-game series. First pitch is at 6:40. The Pittsburgh Pirates and the Washington Nationals will do battle at 7:05. To begin their 3-game series. A 3-game series between the Los Angeles Angels and Milwaukee Brewers. First pitch tonight is at 8:10 p.m. At 9:40, the Cincinnati Reds and Oakland Athletics. And then the last game of the night will be at 10:10 between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is a look around your NL Central. All right. Our number 1 is complete and wrapped up in the books. When we come on back, we will provide you an update on the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs, as well as the Kelly Cup playoffs for the Cincinnati Cyclones, and the NFL draft is coming up underway tonight on SmackDown. Who's going to be drafted first? And we'll talk all about that, break that all down in hour number 2. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throw-In right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, hour number 2 here on the program. I want to give a big shout out to Spreaker, where you can upload podcasts, analyze every podcast that you upload, and be able to monetize and make money, make a profit off of the people who listen to you. Spreaker has a large group of distributions, such as places like iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and much more. For more information, check out Spreaker.com. You know, I had a very fun night last night, and I tell you, if you did not check out the NFL draft, like I mentioned, it was my first time checking out the NFL draft, and boy, it did not disappoint. Now I did say the only problem that I think I ran into last night was the longevity of this thing, and it kind of became a bit of a lackluster halfway through, especially but it was kind of interesting and funny because, as I mentioned, you didn't really there were some teams out there that were not happy, so to say. Like, as soon as some of the players' names, as soon as they were announced, either the fan base was like, who are they? or they were maybe expecting somebody else because they were available. And it really took you into a roller coaster. I mean, I really did not expect whatsoever for Miles Murphy, right? For the Bengals, but I didn't expect Houston, for example, drafting back up to number 3 after picking CJ Stroud to get the number 2 spot. That, last night, I think played very well into leading into tonight for me. Now, I'm not going to go sit around and watch all 7 rounds of the draft. That's just me. I will follow along. We're going to talk about it on Monday. But I'm not going to just sit around. I got my girls coming over tonight. We get off the program. I just want enough time to be able to load this thing, upload on the audio platforms and enjoy a nice weekend. Got a couple of games on Saturday, and then gonna watch some sports over the weekend. And the wife comes up to me early. Hey, we're gonna watch the WWE draft tonight. I'm like, hell yeah, we are. And so we're excited to talk about that. So that's kind of our weekend. But I want to know our number 2 here. We're gonna be fun. It's gonna be filled and compact with professional wrestling, WWE, the WWE draft, and tonight on SmackDown. Now, let me just remind you that we all are also a week away from tomorrow for Backlash, which is May 6th, which kind of makes things a bit more interesting into how this draft is going to play out. But a couple of things that came out today on the WWE website that we will talk to. But before we can do that, hey, I've been working with the friends over with Enlighten Studios. They're much more than just a corporation. They are a family-based organization. They thrive to not only grow their own company, but to help people grow them. They work on films, theater play, volunteer work, classes, you name it, they provide it. And they're a growing company, originated back in 2018. In the local Cincinnati area. One thing they do is give back to the community, and they offer the extending hand, not just for Enlighten Studios and corporation staff members, but for everyone out here to come volunteer at these local festivals and show everyone just how and why the great Queen City of Cincinnati is so amazing to be at and to come in and tune into. So they got a couple festivals coming up here in the month of June and July. Let's talk about that for a second. We got the Italian Festival from June 8th through June 11th. We got the Taco Festival from June 23rd through June 25th. And then we got the Celtic Festival from July 14th through July 16th. And these festivals are filled with live music, great amazing foods, and great amazing beverages, and you get to interact with a lot of great community people out there that come by. If they're coming out of town from, like, let's say Indiana or down in Louisville, I mean, these things get packed, and you get a chance to go out there, interact with people, get a chance to listen to the live music and enjoy and have yourself a fun time. Enlighten Studios offers an opportunity to volunteer, be a part of the group and cast members, and also, hey, initiatives here. There's the essentials. You got to keep your tips. Yeah, any tips that you get working at a booth or whatnot during these events, you got to keep them. All right, it's a great incentive to get help, hopefully motivate you there going on. If you guys are interested in signing up, I would recommend. There's a lot of Terry sent me the sign up sheet a couple of days ago. I looked at it; it's completely empty. Let's sign up. Let's show Terry that we can support Enlighten Studios and these upcoming festivals in Cincinnati. They're down there on the levee by the Newport Aquarium. There's a patch down the hill that they set up and they play and they have a wonderful time. If you guys are looking to sign up, head on over to enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com. That is enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com for more information. And be sure to sign up fast, because I'm sure once people start getting a hold of this, you get them signing up, people will sign up. So that's that. All right. So let's take a look at the quick updates. We got to do our TLC cleanup here of the days. We start off with the NBA. The Boston Celtics and the Atlanta Hawks last night. One game in the NBA playoffs as the round one of NBA playoffs come to a close here. Hopefully over the weekend, we will see the Boston Celtics beat the Atlanta Hawks 128-120. Boston wins the series 4-2. Quite scary, to be honest, if you were Boston. I mean, you had a clear chance at the last game to take care of business. Got away from them. They forced a game 6. Thank goodness Boston can come back and, capitalize. But this was a game that probably shouldn't have happened. And it could potentially affect, I don't want to say it would affect, but every one more game you play can affect your playoff chances moving forward. So we're coming down to the last final 2 teams that we're still waiting in that one small bottom left hand of the bracket. Tonight we have the Sacramento Kings taking on Golden State Warriors. The Warriors have been able to battle back, winning the last 3 games of the series. Sacramento got up to an early 2-0 lead, heading back to Golden State. The Golden State found their pathway and won 3 consecutive games. And this is what Golden State is dangerous about here in the month of, I would say the month of playoff season, how they could definitely come back and, show everyone just how good they can be. So they currently lead the series 3-2. Tonight start 8 p.m. 10:30 p.m. Memphis Grizzlies take on the Los Angeles Lakers in L.A. as the Clippers are eliminated. The Lakers are forced to a game 6 thanks to up to a 3-1 lead. Memphis one last time, forcing game 6 ahead. So they're looking the Lakers are looking to cap things off. And listen, for me, I'm going to tell you this on a personal experience. I feel like LeBron James, it's a do or die go home moment. All right. There's no way you cannot get out of the first round after leading 3-1 to Memphis and, be acceptable then to that. All right. This is natural. This is what it is. No, you got to win. You got to find a way to win, and you got to find a way to move on, or else I think this entire season has been wasteful and has been a failure. And it's interesting because Giannis, Giannis says a quote the other day, how, all the failures are not failures. They're learning curves to get you ready for to get you, prepare you. And that was after he got knocked out of the postseason. And it's like, every time we lose, it's not a failure. This postseason loss is not a failure. This is where we grow and we learn moving forward. So, in the sense, we're hoping that the Lakers could go on and capitalize a victory here against the Memphis Grizzlies. Over in the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have the Tampa Bay Lightnings last night beat Toronto Maple Leafs, staying alive. Toronto leads the series 3-2. New York Rangers get shut out by the Devils as the Devils lead 4-0 as they lead the 3-2 in the series. And then Vegas, I'm going to kind of, don't mean to be rude or salty, but hold on one second. There we go. So Giannis, the Vegas Golden Knights picked up a 4-1 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. Also, Vegas wins the series against Winnipeg Jets. And so I guess I'm going to say I'm a little bit happy. I'm a little bit glad to see that 4-1 shutout. Winnipeg goes back home. And you know what? I'm sorry to say it, but this is thanks to you being, thanks to the way I was treated. That's, I'm sorry, it may be a wrong way to approach it, but that's how I want to approach it. We're also looking into games for tonight as we have the Carolina Hurricanes take on the New York Islanders. Carolina leads the series 3-2 at 7 o'clock. Puck drops at 7 p.m. At 7:30, the Boston Bruins take on the Florida Panthers. Boston leads the series 3-2. At 9:30, Dallas Stars lead 3-2 over the Minnesota Wilds as they look to finish things off. And then tonight at 10 p.m., Colorado Avalanche takes on the Seattle Krakens, and as Seattle leads 3-2 over their mess of things out there. So hopefully, I'm hoping that by Monday we get a chance to start talking about round 2. I think NBA begins round 2 as well tomorrow, I believe, if not Sunday. So we'll give you all that up-to-date information there. All righty, the Cincinnati Cyclones are on the road in the Kelly Cup playoffs. We're at game number 3 tonight at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Cyclones will take on the Fort Wayne Komets as the Cyclones come into tonight's game leading 2-1 in the series. They will have a game 5 in Fort Wayne on Sunday. That puck drops at 6:05 Eastern Standard Time as we continue playing. The Toledo Walleyes in the Central Division playoff semifinals defeated Indy Field 4-0 in the playoffs. So that's a bit nerve-wracking, considering that we still have to play a handful of games while now Toledo gets to sit back and rest for a bit. But we wish the Cyclones good luck this weekend. Hopefully they could take care of business tonight and Sunday and come back home and advance to the semifinals or the Central Division Championship Series against the Toledo Walleyes. So we'll see what happens there coming up. So, all right, let's step aside. Let's take away. It is time to talk about the WWE draft tonight. The WWE draft is held, and we have a couple of things going on SmackDown through that night. A lot of questions to be asked. What can we expect, and who should be the first pick? All that still to come. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
I know we only met just now, and I don't wanna freak you out, no. But baby, all I think about is you and me up in a tree, yeah. You whisper something in my ear.
4:21 here on a Friday afternoon, taking you guys up until 5 on the program to wrap up the week. We want to give a big shout out to Epic Dimic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epic Dimic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epicdemicsound.com. I love the music that they put out, to be honest. And it's they're kind of fun, vibrant, everything going on. I mean, it's quite a Epic Dimic Sound's been loyal. They've been great. So, but that's why I've been choosing for them. All right, SmackDown is tonight. And we got a lot to talk about because, yes, there is a WWE draft going on, but there is a lot more. You still have a 2-hour program on SmackDown. Now, before we get into SmackDown and what's expected to happen tonight, I want to remind people what happened back on Monday when Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, came out and he had a huge announcement. And his huge announcement was that Roman Reigns and that undisputed WWE Universal Champion will go to whatever brand has selected him. And on the opposite brand, there will be a new crowning of a world heavyweight champion that will be crowned on May 27th at I want to say it was a Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, right? And I think this is a huge deal. I think this is the right step. There's an involvement because Paul claims, and he's claiming that this title is going to be defended by competitors who wants to defend the title night in, night out, anytime, anywhere, any circumstances. Which I think, maybe if we take it too far out of context, opens up the, doors of conversation of branding, exposing this title and exposing the WWE beyond their four walls. But I think that is taking it to a little bit out of context. And, there's been time and time again, dated back for over a year now, where we've seen a possibility of a quote unquote forbidden door to be knocked down. And I think at this point, it's once we see it is when we believe it. But tonight, but this is a new title. Let me finish off. This is a new title. And I feel this is a new title because you need a marketable image. I think a valid point to be stated is that whether you're on Fox, whether you're on the USA Network, a network is going to want to have a main title represent that network. So if the World Heavyweight Championship is going to be on Raw, it's going to be on Raw. USA wants that. What they haven't been getting is that Roman Reigns, ever since becoming unified or the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, he re-signed that contract, which I don't think anyone could blame him, but it has hurt this title picture to the point where he's not there each and every week. He's not jumping back and forth between Raw and to SmackDown, and he's not competing each and every month. Like I said, it's not bad, and WWE can alter things around that, but they need a fighting champion. Now, as much as I think it's a good thing, the only downside is I do feel like this takes away a little bit from what Roman Reigns has. Now, obviously, I don't think Roman Reigns is capable of going after this championship as long as he's undisputed WWE Universal Champion. But this wouldn't stop a guy like Solo Sikoa. I hope, though, that whoever reigns this champion on May 27th is in a complete different direction than what the Bloodline's in right now. So we get to tonight, though, on SmackDown, and we have two matches. So ahead of Backlash, which is a week from tomorrow, we will see Zelina Vega go one-on-one against Sonya Deville. Now, I think this is kind of a cheap match. It's a Friday Night SmackDown. I get it. I think this is also a motivation match for Zelina in the sense of, okay, I need something, to kind of gears up, get me prepared for Rhea Ripley. I don't see Rhea Ripley dropping the title. I mean, you would have to, honestly, in my opinion, see something. You would have to see an outside interference in order to drop the title. And I just don't, you just, made this whole image back on the Royal Rumble to now to put the title on Rhea Ripley. Why would you take it off and put on Zelina Vega? Not saying that Zelina Vega doesn't deserve that title. I just don't think it's time. So we'll talk more about the predictions. But tonight we will see a WrestleMania rematch as the undisputed tag team champions, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, will put the titles on the line to face on the Usos. Now, we're already seeing cracks in the shield with both families. Before WrestleMania it was the Bloodline. Well, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens the last couple of weeks have not been quite eye to eye. Kevin wants to move on from the Usos, wants to be done with this. He captured the titles. Well, Sami, I think, is still a part about making the Usos realize and come to the understanding that the bloodline is still hurting, and that, you know, the Usos and Jimmy and Jay needs to move on from Roman Reigns. That Roman, as long as they're listening to Roman Reigns, is going to be about Roman Reigns. And Sami Zayn makes a valid point. But there are some confrontations verbally going on in the back, in the locker rooms with Matt Riddle, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, that I want to see Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens win, and I think that they will win. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Usos recapture those SmackDown titles once again. And one of my things with this WWE draft that I want to understand is that you got the U.S. title, you got the IC title, you got yourself the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship. You just created this new this new World Heavyweight Championship, but you have an undisputed tag team championship that I feel needs to be addressed. And I don't necessarily think or feel that SmackDown, if Sammy and Kevin move to SmackDown, then the Raw titles need to be up for grabs. Because I really want, come May 8th, Monday, May 8th, when Backlash is said and done and the brand split's officially official, right? I don't want to see people jumping back and forth. So they still have a problem, I think, within that. So tonight, I think there's still a lot of answers, but we're just getting started on this new Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H golden era, which as long as Vince McMahon stays out of it, then it's going to be one damn good era in the WWE, right? But I think the most important question heading into this draft, because there's a lot of unanswered things, is who's going to be picked number first. And I want to talk to you about that, but we got to clear some things in order to talk about that. Because, first of all, it's on the WWE website. I just think that this is flabbergasting to see that they have divided the roster into two just to, and a handful of athletes are going to be selected on night one, and a handful of athletes should be selected on night two. And I find that I don't know. I find that a bit weird, a bit concerning. I'm not a big fan of it. And so let me read to you guys the list and get this over with. So who's eligible to be drafted tonight on SmackDown? Here's the list in alphabetical order. And I'll also mention the fractions. Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Bobby Lashley, Candice LeRae, Chelsea Green, and Sonya Deville as one. Cody Rhodes. You got Damage Control, Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. Dexter Lumis, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Edge. Hit Row and Top Dollar, Ashante the Adonis with B-Fab. Imperium and Gunther, Ludwig, Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. Lacey Evans, Matt Riddle, Maximum Male Models, and Mace, Mansoor, and Maxine Dupree. Mustafa Ali, however you want to say it. Natalia, Omos with MVP, Shinsuke Nakamura. The Bloodline as in follows Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. The Miz, the OC, which I don't think we've seen this year, and I know AJ Styles has been injured, but AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Michin. The Street Profits, the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar with Valhalla, and then select NXT superstars. That is for SmackDown tonight. And for Raw on Monday, we got Akira Tozawa, Otis, Chad Gable, Angel Garza, and Humberto Carrillo, Asuka, Austin Theory, Baron Corbin, Braun Strowman and Ricochet, Brock Lesnar, Bronson Reed, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin, Charlotte Flair, Dana Brooke, Elias, Emma, Johnny Gargano, Judgment Day and Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio, Karrion Kross with Scarlett, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, LA Knight, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Nikki Cross, Piper Niven, Rhea Ripley, Rick Boogs, Riddick Moss, who, formerly known as Madcap Moss. Riddick Moss was his NXT name, finally brought back over. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, Seth Rollins, Shotzi, Tamina, Tegan Knott, the Brawling Brutes as they have Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch. The LWO and Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and Zelina Vega. The New Day and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. The Usos and Jimmy and Jey Uso. Trish Stratus, Xia Li, and NXT and selected NXT superstars. So how about that? The WWE has decided that they're going to split the brand and split the draft nights, making certain competitors eligible for each night. As I look through this list, I don't feel like everyone's going to get picked. There's rumors about Bayley, Io Sky, Dakota Kai getting split up, and I can see that happening. There's talk about the Street Profits potentially getting split up, and I can see that happening. But when you look at a list of eligible people, for example, tonight, you also, I think, need to understand there is a strategy, because the concept is to have a roster for both Raw and SmackDown that can elevate both shows in competition in a competitive, rating battles, that they can compete with one another who's the better brand. So my first question coming out of this draft is as follows. Is there going to be a Raw and SmackDown general manager? I think there should. They should. I think there should be a Raw and SmackDown general manager, because that makes it more interesting. Just like when they did it back in 2016. I don't know who you would have for that, but if you're telling me that Adam Pearce is going to be going back and forth between brands yet again and taking part and managing both of them, this is when you allow room for errors and mistake. And I'm not decrediting Adam Pearce. He's done a phenomenal job. Just let him run Raw, and then find someone to come in to run SmackDown, like Corey Graves, Wade Barrett. I wouldn't say Teddy Long, no. I think that's kind of far-fetched. But, I mean, let someone come in and maybe Byron Saxton. Let someone come in and run Raw, and then have an evaluation at the end of the year, and then change GMs if needed, right? I mean, hold the GMs accountable just as much as you do the athletes. But the important thing is that there is a strategy coming into tonight, especially now, okay, listen, if I don't get everyone I want in this round, next round on Monday, there's a handful of people that I can use. There's a few people right now that does not make sense. And if I'm looking at it as a general manager and I was building my own draft based off the people that I have or is available, there's a few guys that, although I'm a fan favorite of, I just wouldn't touch them with the 10-foot pole, because at the end of the day, if I'm a manager, I'm looking at someone who can give me week in and week out work, and some of these guys are part timers. I'll explain that to you guys next. I also want to talk to you guys about who is going to be the first pick. Is it just obvious that Roman Reigns should be number one, or is it the safe way and safety card of, hey, Roman Reigns could potentially slip out of the number one or even the first round of picks because how limited he is? And that all ties along. Let's take you to the bottom of the hour right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Fan blowing cold breeze on your body. I can't tell you really what it is, but you got it. Makeup in the morning, you got dresses in your closet, but you grab them tight, you in love with being modest. You a move body giving centrifuges. I'm just saying I'm amused, but you ain't even flexing. And you cool, tatted up, cover wounds, different vibe, you doing crew, but you ain't even flexing. And you ain't gotta try too hard. Number one fan, your side applause.
The WWE draft kicks up underway tonight on Fox. Check out who's going to get picked number one at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And be sure to tune back into us on Monday, where we will be talking a whole lot about the NFL draft and everything that has transpired, as well as the WWE draft. Now, it makes things a bit easier, for me, because I don't have to break down. You have a list we could go off of, but the WWE draft tonight, Triple H, Paul Levesque has claimed that this is expected to be a game changer. And there are a couple of things that point out to me. Now, I mentioned before the break, there's a couple of teams, athletes, that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Now, now I'm going to put myself in a manager position. If I'm putting together a roster right now, as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and we're going to share our screen. There we go. I want to share with you here. Let's try to. There we go. I want to share with you here the list. And I'm jumping down this list. And there's a couple of people that I'd be very cautious about. Now, this is if I am the general manager of Raw or SmackDown, and I have to choose, on draft. Now, this isn't no WWE 2K23 video game where everyone could stay healthy and blah, blah, blah. You could have whoever you want. Money's unlimited or unrealistic. I mean, if you are, and I know part of it's going to be a part of a storyline, but if you are a general manager actually having to choose this roster, there's a couple of people that throw red flags at me right away. One person is right here in the Rated R Superstar Edge. If I'm looking to better my brand, I just simply wouldn't be throwing out a part-timer. Now, this means no disrespect. I'm not saying that Edge can or can't hang in there with the big boys. I think he can. But his days are numbered. His matches are numbered. If I'm using Edge, I want to try to use him as much as possible. But yet again, he's also a risk factor because every time you throw him out there in a match, he has to take, especially excruciating matches, he has to take 6 to 8 weeks. And I just don't have time on my list. So to say, Edge, listen, I like you, but you just are a liability for me. All right, you're taken away from someone who should be up there every 6 weeks, and then you can't just come back every 6 weeks and try to just insert yourself into something different. I'm also looking at this, scrolling myself down, um, I would like Natalia in this sense, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Um, Omos is very difficult to win. I guess it would be interesting because if I was going with big, bossy men, then yes, definitely with Omos, I'd say yes to. But Omos is kind of scary because I'm a bit worried about Omos being a long-term generic storyline with. AJ Styles, I'll still give him another chance there. We're going to go down to the stuff on Monday. Brock Lesnar is another one. So, I don't know what his contract looks like, but until you know that he can be, you would pick him up because he sells seats and he sells merchandise. Great, wonderful. But I still need an everyday athlete, and he's only a premium live athlete. Could he be an investment potentially? But he's not my go grabber attention. I'm going down the list. There's not a whole lot, but I'd probably try to stay away. I don't know. I like Ronda, Tamina. Okay. Who else? I would stay away from Trish Stratus. I understand the feud, but I don't see her a long-term athlete in there. So there's about 4 or 5 people that I have on the list. Now, here's another guy that makes my list, and it becomes the question of concern. Who would you have in the first selection? And a lot of people are going to jump, well, you have to choose the tribal chief, right? I disagree. I disagree with you on choosing the tribal chief Roman Reigns as number one. As a matter of fact, I would be very shocked if WWE did this, but at the same time, I'd expect them to do this. Roman Reigns with his contract is not as promising right now because he's on selective days. So for me, Roman Reigns doesn't go number one. That undisputed WWE Universal Champion isn't as prestigious right now as if it was being defended each and every day. And it's more so of the holder in Roman Reigns. Now, what does that mean? Well, if I'm looking for a storyline, I need Roman Reigns. If I'm looking for someone to represent my brand, I need someone that's capable of showing up each and every week to work and ready to work. And Roman Reigns is right now not one of them. Now, let's throw some ideas out there, right? First of all, okay, so let's say I'm just going to throw out the hypothetical scenario. Roman Reigns to SmackDown, first pick. Okay? If Roman Reigns goes to SmackDown, then you get Solo Sikoa. Okay? Now, you should get both the Usos, but because I see them separated, and the Usos are being drafted on a different night, I got a feeling that Roman Reigns is not going to fight for the Usos to be with him. And this is where that crack in the bloodline grows even further. So I say Usos is going to be on Raw. I'm just jotting down some predictions. Now, this is quite, now you have a Raw Women's Champion in Bianca Belair. And then you have a SmackDown Women's Champion in Rhea Ripley. And I think that's pretty much given, unless they swap titles. But honestly, I don't see the Judgment Day staying with Rhea Ripley, unfortunately, because right now, with Judgment Day kind of losing the last couple weeks, Dominic just got done losing to Ray at WrestleMania. Finn just got done losing to Edge at WrestleMania. I'm thinking that we see Finn, Damian, and even Dominic on Raw still. That could lead into feuds with the Usos. And I think Damian will lose to Bad Bunny. All right, so let's keep on taking a look at some of this stuff that we see here. All right, let's ask ourselves a big important question. Do we see the Street Profits moving? And for me, this one here, because I think we have to find some new feuds, because it's interesting because we don't see Randy Orton title onto the list. We don't see Big E title onto the list. So on SmackDown, I can see the OC, if they're listed, the OC goes to SmackDown. AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Michin. I'm just writing this down, so I apologize. Okay. I can see, we look at part of this, I can see Becky Lynch. Is Becky Lynch taking on Trish Stratus at a Backlash? I don't think so. So I don't know if you want to split them up. Bobby Lashley, the question I would have is it time for Bobby Lashley to face Roman Reigns as a future opponent? And you know what? I think this year is when you're going to see it, right? So I think Bobby Lashley goes over to SmackDown because he's another opponent for Roman Reigns at Survivor Series or at War Games. At War Games, the same thing, but at Survivor Series and at SummerSlam that Roman Reigns could have. So Bobby Lashley. Okay. Which means on Raw, I'm putting Seth Rollins because I don't need Seth Rollins anywhere near. Now, here's also the extra thing that I'm kind of putting my list. This is kind of a mock draft for me. I'm throwing in Gunther in Imperium. Okay. And Giovanni Vinci on Raw, because I believe then the World Heavyweight Championship goes over to Raw. And I'm not going to go for a full list. I want just to give you a little bit of taste. I think Drew McIntyre comes back over to Raw. And I also see how we want to put this. I think Shinsuke can go over to SmackDown. And I may be completely wrong. That's fine. I'm just experimenting. The Miz could be on Raw because we need some contenders for that Raw title. Charlotte Flair, I think, goes back over to Raw. Right? I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn stays on SmackDown. I think Ronda and Shayna Baszler go over to Raw. But I see the Brawling Brutes go over to Raw. I also see the New Day staying on SmackDown. I'm also seeing LWO. I mean, I think they would be good on Raw right now, but there's a lot of fractions on Raw, so I don't know how you would want to handle it. So LWO on Raw. And I've kind of avoided all but one person. Let's talk about, real quick, Cody Rhodes. Because Cody Rhodes is, in my opinion, one guy who needs to go over to and stay with Roman Reigns, because he needs to continue battling against Roman Reigns in the sense that they got unfinished business. Now, bringing him over to Monday Night Raw, okay? Bringing him over to Monday Night Raw just does not make sense, and having him go after the World Heavyweight Champion, because you're bringing him over to Raw, you have him go after the World Heavyweight Championship, then that doesn't make sense because he has this feud and this existing storyline with Roman Reigns. So I say a big addition to SmackDown is going to be Cody Rhodes. And, you could keep him with the feud of, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, or however you like. But a bold prediction is going to be Cody Rhodes over on SmackDown. I could see Austin Theory over on SmackDown as well. So some opportunities is going to present itself. I think this re-sparks some opportunity. Now, we talk about also some potential NXT call-ups, and based off of what we saw back on Tuesday night with Indy Hartwell and Carmelo Hayes retaining their titles, Grayson Waller, I don't think he's getting called up. I would like to see guys like Cameron Grimes to get called up. He's kind of been nowhere. Ilja Dragunov come up into the main roster, probably on the Raw side or wherever Imperium's at, and have another fighting brute just go at it in the main level. I would like to also see maybe Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane come back up, maybe a return. You love to see some of these returns that aren't mentioned, the guys like Randy Orton, Big E, even Mandy Rose. I think it's just a unique name. And then my biggest one from NXT, you got to see Braun Breaker tonight, either tonight or tomorrow. He needs to be that surprising pick that probably, I would say throw him to Raw with that World Heavyweight Championship, have him face a Bobby Lashley or a Gunther, and dethrone him. And then from there, you're having yourself, you established yourself a new face of Monday Night Raw. And I think that would be a good image on that battle. So there's a lot still, suppresses, maybe throw Omos to Raw, have him Omos and Braun Breaker in the main event. And, since Omos has been losing in big matches, maybe he gets pushed to lose on Raw. So either way, tonight is going to be a good night, and we're excited for what is still to come. We will be back again on Monday to go over everything, the NFL draft, the WWE draft, what happened on SmackDown, getting you guys ready for Monday Night Raw, getting you guys ready for Backlash next Saturday. We'll also get you guys ready for the NBA playoffs, round 2, Stanley Cup playoffs, round 2. Hopefully the Cyclones advance to round 2 as well. So we're just getting started. And I hope everyone enjoyed a wonderful week. Who do you guys have going down in the first night of this WWE draft? We'll find out here tonight on SmackDown, and we'll be back on Monday to review everything. That is it for our program. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Be sure to have those notifications on, and we will see you guys on Monday. You guys take care. Have a great weekend.